Okay, so I had the poem A Work of Artifice, and it goes like this. The bonsai tree in the attractive pot could have grown 80 feet tall on the side of a mountain till split by lightning, but a gardener carefully pruned it. It is 9 inches high. Every day, as he whittles back the branches, the gardener croons. It is your nature to be small and cozy, domestic and weak. How lucky, little tree, to have a pot to grow in. With living creatures, one must begin very early to dwarf their growth. The bound feet, the crippled brain, the hair in curlers, the hands you love to touch. So I first distinguished the speaker to be a third person, someone detached from the poem itself, from the actions in the poem, probably someone just observing the gardener's work. The setting, I said, was kind of particularly unknown, but I guess you could assume that it was in a greenhouse of sorts where you'd keep a plant like a bonsai tree. And then the subject literally was just a bonsai tree and its maintenance. And I said the whole poem was an extended metaphor for women and how they are domesticated by men and that they are pruned or grown up and raised to be a certain way and how they should be elegant and basically a decoration. And if they were free and had no limitations, then they wouldn't have any way, like they wouldn't be controlled in any sense, and I guess they'd be chaotic in a sense. So when I first read through this, I did my title, and I wasn't really sure what artifice meant, but I associated it with artificial, and then when I looked up the definition of artifice, it was kind of pretty much the same thing, meaning that it was fake and phony, and so I perceived this to mean that someone was trying to deceive another, and this kind of sets a negative tone and suggests that the subject is probably a manipulative topic. And then from there, I just kind of went through and looked at ways that the extended metaphor was laced throughout the poem, and wasn't really sure what a bonsai tree was, so I did some research on that, and basically the definition of it is a tree that's artificially prevented from reaching its normal height. And so then I went line by line, and I started with the could have grown 80 feet tall on the side of a mountain till split by lightning. And I said this was imagery because you could definitely see it in your head, the tree just being split by lightning. And I know that's the first thing I thought of because we've had a lot of trees like in storms that have been struck by lightning, especially the taller ones. So it's just kind of this like huge dramatic thing that happens in this like look that the way it looks is very impressive, I guess, because it's kind of like, oh, you've got this one tree. What are the odds of that getting hit? And then I said that the tree could have grown to be this majestic, like grandiose thing, and it's just being cut down, which is kind of like how women are related in society. They could, if in this society at least, they were, they're being pruned by the gardener, and they're not reaching their full potential at the 80 feet height. Instead, they're only reaching 9 inches high. And so the tree on the side of the mountain, growing until it's split by lightning, it could have grown to be this majestic thing, and even still, without the limits, it would go out in this like marvelous way almost, with being this split by lightning action, and it's basically like saying the life without limits is this is what you'll get. So then from the next part of this, moving from the splitting by lightning into the gardener part, I said this could have been a possible tone shift, probably more of a subject shift from the tree and its freedom and nature and beauty, and then a shift to the human actions and how it's being contained. And so I picked out the key like diction words such as carefully and whittles and croons. So the croonings comes from like the melodic, loving tone that's given in crooners, like the songs that they sing, like Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, all those kind of singers which sing these like very like swing love songs almost. So it's very melodic feeling that you get. And I said that this word choice shows how the gardener loves what he's doing, and he loves the tree, and the poet didn't use words like chopping the tree or hacking the branches. He's carefully pruning it and he's whittling it. So it's like it shows time as well, because he's taking his time to carefully mold this tree. And the reason why the gardener does love what he's doing and loves his work is because and takes pride in it is because he's molding the tree to his liking and to his image, which is kind of how later on when it says in the poem that they must begin very early to dwarf their growth. And that's kind of like you have to begin very early with like young girls to put them in their place, to show them where they're supposed to be. And so then the gardener is definitely a male, and I feel like this is probably symbolic of the males holding back women, and that telling the woman, like when he's crooning to the tree, that she should be happy that she's weak and small, and telling them that their role, and be thankful that there's a man in society that's going to look after them and take care of them in their weak and domesticated state. Then they said the 9 inches high was definitely imagery because you could tell the difference from the 80 feet to that 9 inches and show how big of a comparison that is, and how much he's keeping her from reaching her full potential and becoming and living her dreams and doing what she wants. And then from there I moved into the gardener croons, it's your nature to be small and cozy, domestic and weak. And then I said that this is irony because the tree's nature is to be 80 feet tall in freedom and not cut down and cut back and held back in all of its ways. But it's ironic now he's saying it's your nature to be small and cozy rather than being free in this majestic thing. And so then I said there's a repetition of this whole how lucky you are to be in this pot, this attractive pot to grow in. And it's lucky to be otherwise, or the pot is just like, is possibly, I thought of it could be a symbol also for society, or a male or a husband or father figure, someone that's controlling you, or even it could just represent like the belief that women should and are obligated to feel fortunate that there is a man that's willing to take care of her in her weak self, in her weak state. And so then I said that also going from this part about talking about how lucky the little tree is to have a pot to grow in, after that I said this could also be possibly another shift or just another subject change from, it goes from the gardener's actions to then talking about from the tree, how the tree is, and then again shifting to the gardener's actions with talking about how with living creatures one must begin very early to dwarf their growth, and talking about the gardener's actions and his role in this. And then I definitely felt that you could clearly pick up on the extended metaphor part about how it's dealing with women and the bonsai tree as a woman, by talking about the bound feet, the crippled brain, and the hair and curlers, the hands you love to touch part is definitely a big representation of this. Because there was the Asian practice of the foot binding, which was that women are more elegant and more beautiful if they have small feet. And so then it's the crippled brain is like how back in earlier days, I guess, they didn't want women to be educated. They weren't supposed to be smart or to have thoughts for themselves. And then the hair and curlers is like, they must look beautiful and basically want women to be the decoration of a household, or in today's terms, a trophy wife, and not really be praised for her thoughts and actions. It's just supposed to be, you're supposed to sit there in the corner and look pretty. And so I feel like likewise with the tree, women are conditioned since birth to be inferior, which is the whole point of this, with the whole one must begin very early to dwarf their growth. And I said that this is definitely imagery. And the effort it takes to make the tree presentable is the same way that men feel that it's a hard work to make a woman presentable almost, and make her the way that she is meant to be. And I said that the hair and curlers is also dealing specifically with the tree because the branches of the tree are wrapped around wires, so that way it's grown in the way that the gardener wants it to grow and not in the way that she or the tree wants to grow. And it's this whole restriction thing again, how she's trapped and she's supposed to be created by him, essentially. And so then I went back and I looked at the title again, and I said my first time around was pretty much the same. It was no different. I covered it pretty well. My first initial thoughts on what the title meant for the poem. The only thing I said was a little bit different was that the title says that what is happening is all trickery, and all of this work going into it, into making the tree presentable or making the woman presentable, is all trickery, and women should not allow themselves to be contained in the way of the bonsai tree, and that we should be free to express ourselves in the way that we want to. And then finally, I said that the theme of the poem was that the potential of people, specifically women, can be stifled by society and men and the way they are raised. And that is my annotations on the poem, A Work of Artifice.